Hello, and welcome to Dreamy Tales, a sanctuary where everyone can experience calm and a touch of magic before gently drifting into sleep. Tonight, we invite you on another enchanting journey, a story that helps soothe the mind and nurture a sense of peace. Before we begin, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a comforting, restorative rest. Make yourself cozy, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, let the cares of the day gradually slip away. It's not always easy to step back from the day's demands, especially as night falls. Yet, remember, the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the simpler it is for our minds to release any remaining tension. Allow the gentle flow of your breathing to wash away lingering concerns, and let the story ahead guide you into a state of deep relaxation. Now, settle in, and let the dreamy atmosphere softly wrap around you. Enjoy this story, and may you drift into a peaceful, restful slumber here on Dreamy Tales. Allow your senses, then, to guide you down pathways perhaps untrod in your mind, yet promising a profound and quiet ease. Envision yourself adrift in Firenze, the city of lilies, tracing its time-worn flagstones toward an encounter with one of history's most resonant creations. Here, where light filters through cypress leaves, our narrative unfurls. You glide through the entrance of the hallowed gallery, each footfall a soft echo against the cool stone beneath. Excitement thrums, a quiet vibration beneath the surface. Yet you deliberately temper your pace, drawing out the sweetness of anticipation. In mere moments, you will stand before a titan rendered in marble. You are within the Accademia, nestled deep in Firenze's ancient heart, the sanctuary that shelters the most celebrated sculpture conceived by human hands, Maestro Lorenzo's Colossus. Progressing down a grand corridor flanked by silent sentinels of stone and canvas, your eye catches it, a first distant glimpse. There, commanding the corridor's terminus upon its pedestal, stands the alabaster giant. Lorenzo's masterwork embodies the shepherd king, Elia. He is youth incarnate, taut muscle and sinew, poised in contemplation, his gaze cast aside, fiercely intent. One hand cradles the sling, the coiled potential before the confrontation with the brute, Goliath. Drawn by an invisible current, you move closer, compelled to absorb every nuance. This figure, Elia, carries an uncanny familiarity, his likeness disseminated across posters, enshrined in texts replicated on countless mementos. To behold him now, in the flesh of stone, feels almost dreamlike, akin to encountering a figure stepped from legend. Yet, despite this perceived acquaintance, no reproduction prepares you for the sheer presence of the original. He transcends life-size, soaring 17 feet, a marble divinity dwarfing the mortals clustered at his feet. Joining the throng, you feel an unexpected resonance with the theater audience. Before a star performer takes the stage, Elia commands his platform, bathed in the collective gaze of his admirers. Lorenzo's magnificent creation pulses with such latent energy, such potent vitality, that thinking of him merely as sculpted stone becomes difficult. The imagination readily conjures him stirring, descending from his marble stage. Naturally, Elia represents an idealized human form. His staggering height and flawless anatomy stretch the bounds of realism, certain features subtly magnified, perhaps intentionally, for clarity from a viewer's low vantage point. Nevertheless, an astonishing verisimilitude clings to him. You observe the soft geography of muscle, the intricate tracery of veins across his hand, and then his countenance, a landscape of emotion. The furrowed brow, the unwavering intensity of his stare. He feels profoundly, undeniably human. How staggering, the thought occurs, that this being emerged from a singular, colossal block of Carrara marble. Maestro Lorenzo embarked upon this task in 1501, a mere 26 years of age. Civic authorities had been perplexed by this immense flawed stone slab, already attempted and abandoned by 2 prior sculptors. The young Lorenzo, though already acclaimed for works within his native Firenze, and the poignant Pietà now housed in Rome's St. Peter's Basilica, faced his most formidable undertaking. 3 years he labored, chipping, carving, coaxing form from the unyielding marble. Your guidebook shares a resonant quote attributed to Lorenzo, words penned in a letter that echo the sentiment. I perceived the spirit within the marble and carved relentlessly until I liberated him. As you continue your orbit around the statue, absorbing each facet, this concept resonates, liberating the spirit from the stone. It's a profoundly beautiful notion extending beyond this single masterpiece, touching upon the very essence of the artist's calling, to release their vision into the world, free for discovery by all eyes, across all time. Firenze itself overflows with such liberated creations, awaiting discovery around every corner. Even within the academia, more awaits, including Lorenzo's other marble works known as the captives, figures seemingly wrestling their way out of the raw stone, striving for their own release. You linger, exploring further, drinking in other Renaissance marvels. Yet, after a time, a sense of satiation settles in. Masterpieces like these demand digestion, best savored incrementally. You recall reading of an unusual affliction tied to this city. During his visit, the French writer Monsieur Dubois felt so utterly overwhelmed by the concentrated beauty and history that he experienced faintness and palpitations. Since then, the term Dubois affliction describes the intense emotional and physical reactions some visitors encounter here. It's easy to understand. This compact city bears such a weight of history, such an astonishing density of art and architecture. Prudence dictates a slower rhythm, absorbing one marvel at a time. Perhaps another gallery awaits tomorrow. For now, though, the lure of the city streets calls, an invitation to wander aimlessly through its historic core. Outside, the afternoon sun casts a warm, golden glow. A delightful breeze stirs the air, carrying the intoxicating perfume of jasmine mingled with tempting aromas drifting from nearby trattorias. Firenze exudes a relaxed, unhurried charm, feeling more like an intimate town than a frantic metropolis. Footsteps and bicycles set the prevailing tempo. No one rushes. People stroll, allowing time for the pervasive beauty to seep in. You find your own pace slowing, synchronizing with the city's gentle pulse. Ambling down a narrow vicolo, you admire the restrained elegance of the old palazzi, typically 3 or 4 stories high. A harmonious palette dominates, pale ochre, cream, soft gray, punctuated by the deep greens and browns of wooden shutters. Everything coalesces beautifully, the colors fostering a sense of tranquility and seamless connection. One building melts into the next, the winding lanes flowing onward like gentle streams. Periodically, through gaps between buildings or at the end of a street, you catch glimpses of the Duomo, the cathedral's colossal dome presiding over the city's heart. It appears intermittently, a vast, almost magical apparition against the azure sky. A part of you feels the pull to walk towards it, to confront its majesty directly. Yet another part relishes the delay, saving the full encounter like a treasured sweet. For this moment, simply meandering through the shaded passages, absorbing the ambient history, suffices. Every corner reveals a historic plaque, a weathered statue, a silent commemoration of events and lives past. It is akin to navigating an immense open-air museum. You remember learning that in medieval times, Firenze stood as a titan of European finance. Its artery, the Arno River, connected it to the Mediterranean, fueling international commerce. The city gained renown for its fine wool and luxurious textiles, fortunes built by industrious merchants. Around this epoch, in the 14th century, Firenze ignited the Rinascimento, the rebirth. This cultural inferno blazed with innovation across art, science, philosophy, and countless other domains. Great minds drew inspiration from antiquity, from the echoes of ancient Greece. Yet their gaze was fixed firmly forward, charting new territories of thought and discovery. It was an era of extraordinary flourishing, and Firenze was its crucible, home to the astronomer Galileo, whose celestial observations laid foundations for modern science. The polymath Leonardo da Vinci walked these same streets. Indeed, an astonishing constellation of artistic genius converged here within a relatively brief span. Lorenzo, Botticelli, and others whose names still resonate. It seems almost impossible, you muse, such a concentration of brilliance in one place. Was it mere coincidence? Or did Firenze possess some unique, nurturing quality? An answer begins to form as you emerge into a piazza dominated by a grand fortress-like edifice. Its distinctive crenellated tower, punctuated by a clock face, commands attention. This is the Palazzo della Signoria, the Old Palace. Even by Florentine standards, its roots run deep, stretching back to the 13th century. This formidable structure once served as a residence for the powerful Orsini dynasty. For generations, this banking family wielded immense power, wealth, and influence across Europe. Numerous Florentine landmarks bear their mark, but the Palazzo della Signoria remains one of the most potent symbols of their reign. You pause, gazing up at the imposing brick facade, then consult your guidebook for insights into the family who shaped so much of this city's destiny. One of the most compelling facets of the Orsini legacy is their profound cultural impact. Their vast fortunes enabled them to commission works from the era's most luminous talents: Botticelli, Lorenzo, Raphael. They were patrons, too, of Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, and Maestro Filippo, the architect who would ultimately crown Firenze's cathedral with its iconic dome. The support of this influential family emerges as a fascinating common thread. Yet surely, the explanation isn't solely financial. Renaissance Firenze represented a complex alchemy, a convergence of myriad factors fostering a vibrant cultural ecosystem, an intellectual climate where extraordinary talent could not only survive, but thrive. Tucking the guidebook away, you continue your stroll across the sun-warmed piazza. The air hums with history. You tread paths once walked by some of humanity's most transformative figures. Simultaneously, the square pulses with contemporary life. Locals exercising their dogs, children chasing pigeons, couples wandering hand in hand. Amidst this profound historical backdrop, ordinary existence unfolds. The juxtaposition feels peculiar, yet it renders the city's past less remote, more tangible. A sense of unbroken continuity seems to thread through the centuries. Spotting a chicly dressed Italian family, you briefly indulge the fantasy they might be Orsini descendants. Or perhaps the link between then and now manifests differently, not through bloodlines, but through enduring cultural resonance. As long as visitors flock to Firenze, drawing inspiration from its art and architecture, the spirit of the Rinascimento endures. You drift into the cool relief of a side street, noticing a group of friends laughing over cones of ice cream. Abruptly, a craving for something sweet and cold awakens within you. Just ahead, nestled on a corner, the gelateria beckons. A rainbow of flavors gleams behind the glass. Strawberry, mandarin, lemon, kiwi, blueberry. Chocolate and nut varieties tempt, but the warm afternoon calls for something bright and fruity. You choose a cone crowned with 2 generous scoops of creamy lemon gelato. The vendor hands it over with a warm smile, mentioning the lemons are exceptional, sourced from the sun-drenched Amalfi coast far to the south. Closing your eyes for a moment as you taste the gelato, you savor the delicious, zesty tang. The cool intensity of the citrus seems to momentarily transport you from the city's embrace to a sunlit lemon grove perched high above a sparkling sea. You picture endless rows of trees under a flawless azure sky that melts into the dazzling sapphire ocean. Opening your eyes, the daydream recedes, but the feeling of serenity lingers as you continue to enjoy the treat. The very taste of summer, you reflect. Another journey, perhaps, will lead you south, to the groves where these lemons ripen. The gelato is wonderfully refreshing, its subtle sweetness imparting a gentle lift. Though pleasantly weary, you feel content to walk on, eager to absorb more of this captivating city. Soon, you find yourself on a street unlike the others. At first glance, it appears conventional, lined with shops flanking both sides. But peering into a storefront, your gaze travels straight through the building's opposite window. Beyond lies a vista of sky and a distant hill adorned with sentinel cypresses. This thoroughfare is, in fact, a bridge, Firenze's oldest, the Ponte Vecchio, spanning the Arno River. Since its medieval inception, it has served as a bustling commercial artery. Originally, a motley collection of shops thrived here, including butchers and fishmongers. However, in the 16th century, an Orsini duke, finding the marketplace atmosphere insufficiently refined, decreed a transformation. All shops were mandated to become goldsmiths and jewelers, a tradition enduring to this day. As you traverse the bridge now, every window indeed glitters with intricate gold rings, bracelets, and necklaces. The Orsini family imprinted another significant alteration upon the Ponte Vecchio. During the era of butchers and fishmongers, they commissioned the construction of an elevated covered passageway directly above the shops, the Corridoio Vasariano. This corridor provided the Grand Duke seamless transit between his palace and the administrative offices across the river, insulating him from the bridge's crowds and odors. Today, both the Duke's palace and those offices, the Uffizi, have transformed into public treasures, the latter housing the renowned art gallery. Your guidebook notes the Duke's corridor is currently inaccessible, but slated for reopening. Pausing on the bridge, you look up, spotting the row of small windows on the uppermost level, the corridor itself. You picture the Duke striding along, enveloped in the exclusive luxury of his private skyway. Though the corridor remains off-limits for now, a different sort of luxury awaits. Moving past the glittering jewelry displays, you reach the bridge's midpoint, an open expanse offering unobstructed river views. Leaning against the low stone parapet, you let your gaze drift along the Arno's left bank. An elegant, venerable building catches the eye, the Uffizi Gallery. Its walls seem bathed in liquid gold by the afternoon sun. You notice the line of small windows running along its side. Perhaps a continuation of that secret passage. For a moment, you daydream about other hidden chambers and enigmatic windows scattered throughout this city of secrets. The panorama from the bridge possesses the perfect composition of a master painting. The tranquil, shimmering river acts as a mirror for the sky. Along both banks, rows of beautiful old buildings stand in harmonious shades of cream, gold, and pale apricot. In the distance, another bridge arches gracefully, an ancient tower punctuates the skyline, and a gentle hill ascends, its crest defined by the dark, slender forms of cypress trees. A yearning stirs within you to journey there, to stand upon that distant rise and view Firenze from that elevated perspective. But as you imagine the climb, the day's exertions make themselves known. After hours of walking and absorbing wonders, the desire to sit and rest prevails. Thankfully, your hotel lies centrally located, just a few streets away. Retracing your steps, you navigate the cool, shaded back streets until you reach your temporary sanctuary. Your room, situated on the top floor, is compact yet comfortable, adorned with rich patterns and fabrics. The curtains possess a palatial quality, creamy velvet embroidered with intricate floral motifs in varying hues of crimson. A deliberate nod, you suspect, to Firenze's storied past and its famed textile heritage. But the room's true treasure lies beyond the fabric. You requested a room with a view, and it has delivered spectacularly. Drawing back the heavy curtains, you unlatch the door and step onto the small balcony. Directly before you, rising majestically from a sea of terracotta rooftops, stands the Duomo, the cathedral's unmistakable dome. This immense structure, crafted from warm, orange-red bricks, is crowned by an ornate white marble lantern, itself topped by a gleaming bronze ball and cross. The final flourish, the perfect punctuation mark. It is the emblem of Firenze, the very soul of the Rinascimento rendered in brick and marble. You recall the story of the dome's creation, engineered by Maestro Filippo. Construction on Firenze's cathedral had commenced in 1296, yet over a century later, the vast edifice remained incomplete, lacking its crowning feature. In 1418, the city resolved to find an architect capable of designing and executing a massive, self-supporting dome. Disputes arose over methodology and the commission itself. Filippo, a local goldsmith with no prior architectural projects to his name, possessed a revolutionary vision and, crucially, the backing of the Orsini family. Legend holds that Filippo employed an unconventional tactic to sway the commissioning panel. During a meeting, he proposed the prestigious project be awarded to whichever architect could make an egg stand upright on its end. An egg circulated the table, baffling each contender. Inevitably, it rolled onto its side. When Filippo's turn arrived, he simply took the egg, tapped its end firmly against the tabletop, slightly cracking the shell. The egg stood firm. He secured the commission. Whether apocryphal or not, the tale underscores Filippo's astounding ingenuity. The dome remains an unparalleled feat of engineering, composed of over 4 million bricks. Even today, it reigns as the world's largest brick and mortar dome. Standing on your balcony, admiring the magnificent structure before you, the story of the egg brings a smile to your lips. Much like Maestro Lorenzo, who perceived the spirit within the marble, Filippo too discerned the extraordinary potential hidden within the commonplace. Perhaps this shared insight, this ability to see beyond the mundane, was a defining characteristic common to all the Rinascimento geniuses who graced Firenze. A thirst born of the long walk prompts you inside to pour a glass of cool mineral water from the small refrigerator. Returning to the balcony, you settle into the comfortable lounge chair. Sipping the water, feeling relaxed and revitalized, you continue to contemplate the beautiful dome bathed in the slanted golden light of late afternoon. It glows like a miniature setting sun. Everything about this moment feels exquisitely perfect. The view of the dome against the tapestry of rooftops, the evocative, high-pitched cries of swifts darting through the evening sky, the pervasive scent of jasmine drifting from a nearby terrace. You inhale deeply, savoring the rich, sweet perfume. As evening approaches, the jasmine fragrance seems to intensify. Or perhaps your senses, sharpened by a day immersed in Florentine beauty, are simply more receptive. Whatever the cause, you relish the scent now with conscious pleasure. You continue to breathe slowly, rhythmically, your gaze fixed on the dome. The red bricks appear to soften and merge with the golden light, their edges luminous. As you watch the light subtly shift and fade, you treasure each passing second. Here, on this small balcony, suspended above the ancient city, a profound sense of fortune washes over you. It has been a wondrous day in Firenze, and now, this tranquil interlude offers respite, a chance to simply be, resting here for as long as you desire, enveloped by the view and the quiet magic of the approaching twilight. December 13th dawned ink black beyond the ice-etched glass, yet Alara surfaced from sleep effortlessly. Bare feet met the chill floor before burrowing into sheepskin-lined wool slippers. A quick, smoothing gesture restored order to the downy warmth of her eiderdown. She inhaled deeply. The air hung thick, fragrant with saffron's golden promise. the sweetness of raisins, rising dough, and the dark comfort of brewing coffee. Down the familiar staircase she ghosted, bypassing the traitorous, creaking riser, intent on reaching the kitchen without disturbing Mormor or young Freya. Mor was already a presence in the brightly painted heart of the house. As Ilara entered, a blast of fragrant steam billowed from the oven, momentarily obscuring the windows, as Mor withdrew a tray laden with golden lusakater, saffron buns gleaming with plump raisins. Far stood Sentinel by the stove, overseeing the ritual brewing of his potent morning coffee. Fuel for the forge where his blacksmith's hammer would soon ring. From a cradle tucked away, baby Kale offered soft, contented gurgles. Upon the scrubbed pine table lay a clutch of birch twigs beside the Advent wreath, its candles awaiting their turn. A paper star, stark white against the lingering dark, presided from the window pane, a herald of the nearing Christmastide. Smiles met her from both Mor and far. Today held a special resonance for all Hjelborg, indeed all of Sweden. But for Ilara it shimmered with unique significance. This evening, she would embody St. Lucia in the town's procession. Mormor materialized in the doorway, her own smile creasing her eyes. A gentle hand rumpled Ilara's fair hair before she gravitated towards the radiating warmth of the tall ceramic stove, a comforting monolith in the corner. Last to emerge was Freya, tousle-haired, clutching her beloved painted wooden horse. Her eyes widened, taking in the already assembled family. Realization dawned. She was the final arrival. On St. Lucia's morn, the last abed earned the playful title Lucy the Loose, and a gentle tap from the birch twigs. A giggle escaped Freya as Mor, laughing, reached for the bundle. A merry chase ensued around the table until Mor captured her youngest, administering the light tap before enveloping her in a warm embrace. Gathered around the table, the family savored the day's special breakfast. The lusakater, buttery suns on the plates, released their saffron perfume. The spice pirouetted on Ilara's tongue. She pinched off a crumb for Kale, initiating him into his very first Lucia day. Mormor, witness to nearly 80 such mornings, recalled her own 13th Lucia Day, when she herself had led the Fjellborg procession. Freya, bun devoured, voiced the question, why this day for St. Lucia? Ilara, steeped in school lessons, recounted the tale. Of Lucia, a girl her own age and distant, sun-drenched Syracusa, long, long ago. An era without electric glow, when Christians sought refuge in the catacombs beneath the city. Lucia, heart full of kindness, carried food to the hidden faithful. To keep her hands free, she wore not a handheld candle, but a wreath upon her head, 4 flames piercing the subterranean dark, illuminating her path of compassion. This, Ilara concluded, was why Scandinavia remembered her goodness each December 13th, with candlelit processions led by a chosen girl crowned in light. But Freya pressed further. Why this specific date, deep in winter's grasp? Why not spring or summer's endless light? Ilara chuckled. Summer belonged to midsummer revels, dancing under the midnight sun. Yet, pondering, she admitted uncertainty about the December timing. Ah, the old ways. Mormor began, her voice weaving history into the warm kitchen air. These long December nights tested our ancestors. Cold bit deep, harvests sometimes failed, and shadows stretched long. Some whispered of ill spirits abroad in the midwinter gloom. Light, she emphasized, was their shield, their solace. Light banishes fear. Even on lean years, a night of song and candle glow could lift spirits, quiet rumbling bellies. Soon, Mormor continued, the year pivots. The darkness yields, inch by slow inch. But now, winter's grip is tightest. That is why we honor Lucia now, when the need for light is most profound. Your task tonight, Elara, she finished, her gaze steady, is vital. You bring the light, the warmth, to pierce the year's deepest dark. Yet, before the evening's duty, Moore reminded them, came the school day. Bundled against the Vite, Elara and Freya strapped on snowshoes, their bindings creaking in the stillness. They stepped into a world still cloaked in shadow, though the eastern horizon hinted at a reluctant, pewter dawn. The sight of the familiar red schoolhouse, a beacon against the snow, brought a welcome sense of impending warmth. Inside, the usual academic rigor had surrendered to festive purpose, though the chalkboard displayed the stark geometry of triangles and grammar's unyielding rules. Fru Lindgren and students alike ignored them. Today was wholly dedicated to crafting the elements of the evening's spectacle. Elara commenced weaving her crown, her fingers working pliable lingonberry branches harvested from the schoolyard bush. Lingonberry, evergreen, defying winter's bleakness, a symbol of resilience, of life persisting, of spring's eventual return. Sap sticky on her skin. The crushed leaves released a sharp, verdant perfume, conjuring images of thawing fields, newborn lambs, and the blue haze of forget-me-nots. A hum of focused activity filled the room. Girls meticulously painted candle holders, destined to accompany their own white gowns in the procession, each a single flame following their Lucia. Boys affixed shimmering paper stars to slender wands, preparing their roles as stjerngosar, star boys, complete with tall star-adorned conical hats. In the corridors, younger children darted about, already costumed as mischievous Tomtenisar, Santa's helpers, sporting pointed red caps and elfin ears. Midday brought a fleeting visitation from the sun, a pale silver disk veiled in cloud. Its light, thin and cool, offered scant warmth, but set the vast expanse of village snow glittering like scattered diamonds. By school's end, however, it had already dipped low, surrendering the world to encroaching twilight. Darkness had fully claimed the sky when Elara and Freya reached their cottage, its windows spilling warm, welcoming light. Moore, enveloped in a fine mist of flour, had spent the day baking, a tribute to the sustenance Lucia carried into the catacombs, a tradition manifest in an array of warming, festive treats. She looked up as her daughters entered, declaring their arrival perfectly timed. Extra hands were needed for the pepper kakor, the thin, spiced gingerbread biscuits essential to the post-procession feasting. Moore pressed a rolling pin into Elara's hands. Together, they worked the fragrant dough, stretching it across the table into a smooth, even expanse. Then came Freya's task. Armed with a star-shaped cutter, she furrowed her brow in concentration, meticulously punching out biscuit after biscuit, arranging them carefully on baking sheets. While the pepper kakor baked, Freya was entrusted with stirring the meatballs, gently simmering in their creamy gravy. Meanwhile, Ilara and Mor turned their attention to the veticrans. The enriched dough, having risen patiently in a warm nook, was gently coaxed and stretched thin. With practiced hands, they brushed it with melted butter, showered it with sugar, and scattered aromatic cinnamon and cardamom over its surface. Rolled tightly and joined into a circle, Mor then made deft cuts, twisting the sections outward to form an edible, ornate wreath. As the pepper kakor emerged crisp and golden, the veticrans took their place in the oven's heat. Ilara cooled the ginger snap with her breath before taking a bite. A perfect shatter of spice and butter. Beyond the window, the sky deepened to a profound velvety black. Stars emerged, sharp silver points piercing the night's heavy fabric. The wall clock indicated 6:30. The hour had arrived. Baby Kale was swaddled thoroughly in woolens, his tiny hands and feet encased in sheepskin. Freya donned her best coat, clutching the pointed red cap that marked her role as a tomate in the procession. Ilara splashed cool water on her face, scrubbed diligently behind her ears, and brushed her hair until it gleamed like pale silk. Then, with reverence, she slipped into the pristine white gown Mor had meticulously sewn over many weeks. She'd never worn anything so fine. Its front fastened with a cascade of tiny, pearlescent buttons, the sleeves and hem intricately embroidered with white on white foliage. Mor helped cinch the bright crimson sash around her waist, the traditional mark of Lucia. The procession's starting point was the schoolhouse. Its path would meander through Fjellborg's narrow cobbled lanes, culminating at the town hall. The classroom buzzed, a constellation of children adjusting pointed ears and star-topped hats. The girls, a drift of white gowns, stood apart. Ilara uniquely distinguished by her crimson sash. The lively chatter and shuffling ceased abruptly as the clock chimed 7, blanketing the room in sudden, expectant silence. Fru Lindgren raised a hand. The moment neared. A knot tightened in Ilara's stomach, a tangle of exhilaration and apprehension. "Don't wobble," she silently pleaded with her future crown. "Don't trip on the icy stones. Don't forget the song." She murmured the familiar words under her breath. "Natten går tunga fjät, rund gård och stuva. Se, på vår tröskel står vitklädd med ljus i hår. Sancta Lucia, Sancta Lucia. Now night walks grand yet silent. Look, at our threshold stands, white-clad with light in her hair. Sancta Lucia, Sancta Lucia. With careful precision, Fru Lindgren secured the lingonberry wreath atop Ilara's head. It settled, substantial yet manageable. Strategically placed pins ensured it remained steady as Ilara tested it with small movements. A match flared, and Fru Lindgren touched a flame to each candle wick. One by one they caught, casting a warm halo around Ilara's face. Behind her, the other children assembled, utterly silent. A small, determined smile touched Ilara's lips as she stepped through the schoolhouse door, leading the river of light into the night. Pausing at the schoolyard gate, Ilara cast a swift glance backward. The familiar silhouette of the school stood stark against the snow-laden garden and the deeper darkness of the forested hills rimming Fjellborg. Behind her stretched the procession, a flowing ribbon of white figures, bathed in the flickering golden radiance of their candles. Her classmates. Breath, a renewed smile, and she pushed open the gate, descending into the waiting town. The narrow street was lined with townspeople, their forms merged into dark, expectant shapes against the houses. Though individual faces remained indistinct in the gloom, their collective voices rose in song, the clear sopranos of the women, the resonant bass of the men, the thinner, earnest tones of children too small to march. Ilara focused, measuring her steps, seeking a rhythm neither rushed nor lagging, allowing the procession its proper, solemn grace. With each step on the cold cobblestones, echoes of the past seemed to walk with her. She pictured Mormor, decades ago, treading this very path, crowned in light. She imagined Fjellborg in even older times, the immense, pressing darkness of winter nights before abundant lamps, the profound significance this river of candles must have held. And her thoughts journeyed south, to Lucia herself, navigating the Stygian blackness of the catacombs, a small beacon of hope. As the solid shape of the town hall emerged from the darkness ahead, the repertoire of familiar carols concluded. Only the Sancta Lucia hymn remained. Ilara lifted her voice, singing clearly now, the melody soaring into the crisp air, carrying over the snow-dusted rooftops and towards the silent hills. Infused with song and the dance of myriad flames, she thought, the night felt less vast, less forbidding. The procession concluded, and the great doors of the town hall swung wide, spilling warmth and light. Ilara stepped inside, her cheeks and fingertips tingling pink from the frosty air. Long tables within strained under a festive burden. Pyramids of buns, platters of biscuits and pastries, glistening smoked fish alongside steaming new potatoes, urns of cardamom-laced coffee, and steaming cauldrons of glögg, the traditional mulled wine, fragrant with spices, raisins, and almonds. Too young for the potent glögg, Ilara gratefully accepted a mug of hot, spiced apple juice and a generous slice of Moore's wreath-shaped vetekranz. A gentle tide of well-wishers flowed towards her. The mayor offered a formal compliment. Neighbors smiled. Fru Lindgren praised her poise. Women from Moore's sewing circle beamed. And men, colleagues of far from the smoky forge, nodded their approval. A wonderful Lucia. The sentiment echoed around her, warming her more than the spiced apple drink. Sated, the villagers cleared the tables, making way for the musicians. Lively strains of fiddle and accordion filled the hall, summoning couples to the floor for swirling waltzes and energetic polkas. Ilara danced, light-footed, despite the long day. Once around the room guided by Far's steady hand, twice laughing with her cousin Oscar, and once, purely for joy, partnering a delighted Freya. But as the hour grew later and the adult's energy seemed boundless, weariness began to weigh on Alara. Finding an unoccupied chair, she curled into it, watching the dancers. Older couples moving with quiet familiarity, younger pairs exchanging shy glances amidst the turns. Far tapped his foot rhythmically beside her, while Moore gently rocked the sleeping Guile, cocooned in her shawl. Tradition held that some stalwarts would greet the dawn, keeping Lucia's vigil with dance, song, and stories until morning light. But not Ilara. As midnight chimed, her yawns became unconquerable signals. Moore and Farr exchanged knowing glances and gently guided their Lucia homeward through the quiet, snowy streets. Back in the sanctuary of their cottage, she changed into a soft nightgown and slipped between cool sheets. The familiar night sounds of the house settled around her. Freya rustling in the adjacent bed, Mormore's quiet movements settling Kale, the low murmur of Moore and Farr's voices from downstairs. Slowly, these sounds softened, faded, dissolving into the profound stillness of a sleeping household. Exhaustion pressed heavily on Alara's eyelids, yet she resisted sleep for a few moments longer. She wanted to hold on to the sensations, to replay the evening in the warm darkness, the hushed crunch of snow underfoot, the rise and fall of collective song, the mingled sense of baking and pine drifting from the town hall, the transformative power of hundreds of small flames pushing back the vast winter dark. These were the year's deepest nights. Fjellborg held fast in winter's embrace. But the turning point was near. Soon, imperceptibly at first, the darkness would begin its slow retreat, the days lengthening minute by minute, the sun lingering a little longer with each visit. Snow would yield to thaw to green shoots to the riotous life of spring, and eventually to summer's long, luminous days. With thoughts of returning light and warmth cradling her mind, Ilara drifted into sleep.